Guys, this is absolutely outrageous. I am like freaking out right now about Star Wars Unlimited. Part of my voice still, I am getting through it. I'm much more clear today, but this cannot wait. Okay, we just got a massive dump of spoilers with the Legends tag. I'm going to explain more about it. I'll probably do a full video on it because it's such an impactful thing that they've added with the spoiler here. But guys, spoiler alert, new Knights of the Old Republic cards are coming, and this just teases it to the point where I am expecting a full Knights of the Old Republic set. I cannot wait. One of the reasons why this is so exciting, for those of you that watched my previous video where I talked about Darth Revan for an entire video, Darth Revan is technically mentioned very briefly in some of the visual dictionaries, as well as alluded to with some of the things that people talk about within the Clone Wars, and more specifically in the 9th movie. After that, that's it. So all we really have confirmed in the canon universe is that Revan exists. That's it. But the thing that we saw with that card was he had the title Scourge of the Old Republic. That implies that it's matching the story. And today's spoilers, oh my gosh, not did it just confirm everything that we had spoke about in the previous video, but it went above and beyond. A big thank you to my patrons, guys. We got to talk about these cards immediately, starting us off with Darth Malik. Oh, I'm so excited about this, guys. I don't know if you can tell. 5-cost ground unit, in villainy, 4/7/4 Sith unit, overwhelm. When played, if you control a Sith Leader unit, you may ready this unit. You may ready this unit. This guy is absolutely sweet. Obviously, the first thing I think of is Revan. A lot of the cards we're going to talk about today, in fact, all of the new Legends border, you'll notice it's represented by this gold border down here, are revealed today. We're going to get 15 new ones, and they were revealed today. I believe I have all the images here for us to walk through, but this is representative of the Legends content, and KOTOR kind of follows into that Legends era, because this story with Darth Malik, Bastila, finding the Star Forge, and all that type of stuff, all that stuff is Legends content. So obviously, they're somewhat designed to function with Revan, and Malik is a perfect example of a card that fits with Revan. First off, we deploy Revan, we play Malik, you get a 4/7 overwhelm for 5. That's immediately readied. That's actually incredible. That's a really powerful situation to be in, especially considering that there's a lot of these Force synergies, and that means that you can potentially use the Force multiple times in a turn, depending on what cards we're going to get, right? Because you can attack, get the Force after already having the Force, and Darth Malik's going to be able to ready up immediately if we have a Sith Leader. It's just so powerful. But more importantly than that, as I said, it works especially well with Revan. One, because he's got a high toughness. High toughness is extremely important if you're trading off with units and trying to grow them. Malik's going to be really nice for that. But secondly, it's got overwhelm. You're going to be able to fight through units and still hit their base. This guy looks perfect for Revan. I don't know if it really fits all that well into other decks. One of the things that I was kind of thinking of is a lot of the earlier to deploy leaders. Asajj Ventress, for example, is a 4 to deploy leader. She is a Sith. You can technically curve into Darth Malik and get an immediately readied up 4/7, which still is pretty strong. But there's not a whole lot of Sith units, or leaders rather, that are cheap. It really is Darth Revan and Asajj. That's pretty much it. All the other ones deploy just a little bit later right now. So unless we see some new ones, those are the two that I'm thinking of when I think of Sith. So that's what Malik's going to be intended to work for. Darth Revan and Asajj. We got the new Forged Starfighter. Guys, for those of you that don't know, this image it gives me goosebumps. It just reminds me flying to Tatooine, and suddenly you get ambushed by the Forged Starfighters and you have to shoot them out of the sky with your Ebon Hawk. It is just, oh, I'm so excited. 1-cost space unit in villainy. It's a 1/1 Sith vehicle fighter, hidden raid 1. This is actually pretty strong, to be honest. I do like these cheap space units. We've seen the value of these cheap space units. Not that it's pretty strong in terms of, I guess I shouldn't have said pretty strong. It is good for the decks that are looking for this type of effect. Something like New Vader really likes these 1-cost space units, and having 2 power to attack with is actually pretty good. The other thing that's nice about it is that it can't just completely be ambushed immediately or attacked immediately, which is also nice. And if you do deploy it later on, it does get that 1 turn of freedom, which should be pretty good as well. I don't think this is going to be a card that many decks want. I think it's going to be a very more niche scenario when you want Forged Starfighter. But if you do want this type of effect, it probably is going to just slot in pretty nicely. So I used the wrong wording. I was just too excited about Forged Starfighter, guys. Yeah, I don't think it's like an especially strong card. It's just a common that some decks may want. We have Darth Revan's lightsabers. Sick, by the way. Again, gold border. 2-cost upgrade in villainy, attached to a non-vehicle unit. If attached unit is a Sith, it gains grit. So +2/+2, obviously horrible unless it's a Sith unit, period. If it's not a Sith unit, it's just +2/+2, which is just horrible. It's not playable. Grit makes it a little bit more interesting. And another side note, guys, the image on this is just so insane. I would have a lot of moments like that. Okay, this video, it's just every single card. I have just goosebumps after nostalgia, after excitement, after more nostalgia. It is just crazy to me. Anyways, you put this on a Darth Revan, and suddenly Darth Revan gets immensely scary, right? You are suddenly just putting this on Darth Revan. He becomes a 5/8. So you get to kill a unit. Boom. Maybe they deal 3-4 damage to Darth Revan. So it's a 5/8. You get an experience token from Revan. So it becomes a 6/9. It dealt 4 damage to your Revan, which he becomes a 10/5, right? Like it just scales out of control really quickly. I don't really see this being all that great in other lists. Again, the other Sith leaders that I'm thinking of, and I am thinking about leaders with this card because you want a guaranteed target. Asajj, that's the only one that's pretty early on in the game. The other ones are a lot later, to the point where I wouldn't even try to plan around getting this upgrade on a late unit. But Malik is another option. And by the way, hold on, guys. Hold on, okay? You know we're going to be playing this card, okay? You know we're going to be playing this card. I actually have the replica of the lightsaber shown in the portrait. Okay, so anyways, we're gonna be playing this card. It's gonna happen. This card looks absolutely sweet. I don't think it's necessarily particularly strong outside of those specific 2 cards that I mentioned, Darth Revan and Malik. Both of them have high toughness. Both of them kind of deploy when you want them to. Malik especially, that overwhelm is going to be really impactful. Works really well with Revan. I think this does have an option. I think it does fit in the Revan deck, but outside of that, I'm not really that impressed. Okay, I know I'm excited, but I got to give the real statements on these cards. I don't think this card's that great at all. It's literally only for Revan and Malik. Next up, we've got Liberator by Darkness. We've got Bastila on the card art. Woo, absolutely sweet. We got Starforge in the background. 5-cost event, Cunning Villainy. Use the Force if you do take control of a non-leader unit. At the start of the regroup phase, its owner takes control of it. Pretty interesting in that it's basically change of heart, but you just pay 1 less for it. That's pretty much it. You have to use the Force, of course, but this is just a strong card, right? I can absolutely see this being a finisher in some of your decks. We've seen Change of Heart be a strong card in certain lists. And again, this is literally Change of Heart, but 1 less cheap, 1 less cost, add villainy aspect, but you have to use the Force, right? So basically, you get the Change of Heart effect, and if you're in the aspects and you're playing a Force deck, this is just going to be an upgrade in most scenarios over Change of Heart. So I absolutely see this being a potential finisher, and 5 resources over 6 resources is a massive turn differential, especially since 5 is when a lot of leaders deploy. And if you can take over one of the other units, deal with their leader before they get any value with it, or something like that happens, it's going to be incredible. Now, remember, this is not like Commandeer where you get to ready up the unit. Okay, that's something that a lot of people miss when they go back to Change of Heart after playing with Commandeer. So while I do think it's a better Change of Heart, I don't think it's going to be an absurd card. Change of Heart was never an absurd card. It was just specific decks wanted to use it, and those specific decks were incredibly good with it. Specifically, lots of Hans were playing it back in the earlier sets, and more recently, Palpatine Yellow. I think this could open it up with just 1 less cost for those Force decks to be playing Liberated by Darkness. Nothing too crazy, but Bastila on the art. I say Bastila because it's Bastila, but she's Dark Side Bastila, guys, it just is what it is, okay? Death Field, another one that's absolutely sweet. And this is only, again, if you play KOTOR, you know why I'm so excited about this. 4 cost event and aggression, villainy, deal 2 damage to each non-vehicle enemy unit. If you control a force unit, draw a card. I don't actually think this is that great. We've seen these types of effects so far, and they just haven't really performed all that well. There's not a lot of times when you have like 3, 4, 5 units on the battlefield and you can actually wipe out a bunch of them. Most of the time, your opponent's gonna have 1 to 2 units on the battlefield, especially if you're playing a Revan deck. You're gonna be trading off units a lot, and I don't really see this working in other lists. Although, this is really important, they did mention an event-specific leader coming in. So maybe a lot more of these board wipe type of effects that deal damage are going to be more focused towards that leader. Controlling a force unit, drawing a card is a nice bonus, but really it's Death Field, guys. It is one of the core force powers that if you've played the game, I've played through it like 40 times, but like if you have played the game and you've indexed towards the Death Field, it is one of the most fun abilities in the game, just draining the entire battlefield. But absolutely sweet, really awesome art. I don't think it's a particularly strong card. We've got HK47. The subtitle on this gets me. Exclamation die meatbag. It's just perfect, okay? 2 cost ground unit, aggression, villainy, 2/4 Sith droid. Nice stat line, to be honest. It is a legendary, which is crazy, by the way. But 2/4, a good stat line. When you're looking at like 2/3s, you're kind of like meh. 3/3s, you're like okay. 2/4s are kind of like in between the 2/3s and the 3/3s. I think I'd most of the time rather have a 3/3, but a 2/4 in this particular case is actually pretty nice because one of the things with Revan is you want your units to survive, and guess what? This guy's going to be benefiting you from killing opposing units, which fits with Revan's strategy. It's also got the Sith tag, which is not something to leave behind. It is a Sith droid, which is something like literally the tags are, but it is a Sith droid from like the lore perspective. And this is something that was kind of unique to the Old Republic. It was just an absolute mess of, force affiliated factions. And this just looks absolutely sweet. Love the art, love the subtitle, and I do think it kind of is fitting for HK47. We've got Jedi Guardian. For those of you that played the game, basically when you get to Dantooine, you're able to choose from one of 3 different core classes. You have the Jedi Guardian, Jedi Sentinel, and Jedi Consular, and we have all 3 of those to talk about today. This is the first one, Jedi Guardian. We have 5 cost ground unit, Vigilance, Heroism, 4/8 Force Jedi. While this unit is defending, it gets +2/+0. Pretty straightforward, kind of mediocre, but I do think it's a nice curve filler if you're looking for a Force Jedi. That's pretty much it. There's not really much else to say about it. It is just kind of a common. It's kind of defining of the archetype, but a 4/8 for 5 isn't anything to be super excited about, right? We're seeing like Kiari Mundi, which I think is a better stat line than this, and does kind of fit the tags better, even more so. So I don't really see Jedi Guardian being all that useful. Jedi Consular, this is the other one. We have a 1/4 Force Jedi, 2 cost ground unit in Command Heroism. This one I actually do think looks pretty interesting. Its action is to use the Force. You get to play a unit from your hand. It costs 2 less. This looks crazy to me. This looks especially good. Now, here's the thing with this. You obviously can't attack and generate the Force and then use the action. So you need some other way to generate Force. If you're able to generate Force, though, this essentially gives you a 2 cost discount on some massively expensive units, and it can be anything, right? Play this, turn 2, you're playing Poe Dameron. Just straight up, you can play Poe Dameron next turn. That's just what you can do. It's basically now there are 2 of them. This one I think actually has potential. Not that I think the card itself is an insanely powerful card individually, but I think the effect that it has is an incredibly powerful card. Although, by the way, you can see the little Selkath in the background on the left-hand side from when you go to Manan. Again, every single one of these cards just has a wealth of lore that I am absolutely loving. And every single card is exciting to me, even the commons. Next up, we've got some more ones to talk about, though. Starting us off with Jedi Sentinel, the 3rd one of the batch. As I said, there's 3 different classes. This one's a 4 cost ground unit in Cunning Heroism, a 5/4 Force Jedi. While the Force is with you, you get Sentinel. Pretty interesting. I think this is kind of just like a standard card, really. This is just a curve filler. If you're looking for a Force Jedi card on 4 resources, this has a decent stat line, a little bit more aggressive. It might fit your interests. That's pretty much it. It kind of applies to the Jedi Guardian as well, to some degree. I do think the Jedi Consular might have a little bit more options between these 3. This one looks more towards Star Wars The Old Republic. And for those of you that don't know the difference, Star Wars Knights of the Republic has a Game 1 and a Game 2. These were like single-player RPG games. Then, instead of making Knights of the Republic 3, which I'm a little bit sad about, they made The Old Republic MMO, which was still really good. I played through all the storylines, max level, back in like 2012. I've played a ton of that game, went through the whole storyline again a couple years ago. But basically, this looks more towards that theme based on what I'm seeing in the art and the fact that we have a Tucata on the art versus any sort of traditional race that you would be playing in KOTOR 1 or KOTOR 2, since you can't actually play those races. Now, again, that could just be referencing KOTOR and just a random Jedi Sentinel, but that seems unlikely to me. I think this is actually relating to the Star Wars The Old Republic, which again is super exciting because I could see them doing a KOTOR set and an Old Republic set, and all of that would be a wealth of characters to build off of. Just absolutely amazing, guys. Next up, we've got Tucata. This was sweet. Again, another one that makes me think of the Old Republic game. We've got 3-cost gradient and aggression. It's a 4/2 creature. Hidden. That's it. So it's kind of nice because you at least get to go ahead and potentially guarantee an attack next turn. I don't think this is particularly strong, though. Yes, maybe there's some hidden synergies, but I think I'd rather play just a wealth of other units over Tucata. Maybe there's some sort of creature synergy, or like you can get some benefits from Beast Tamer type effect. Again, this reminds me of the Old Republic MMO for one of those games when you're playing a Sith Warrior or Sith Inquisitor as your starting class. You start off on Korriban, and then there is kind of like this side story in one of the initial missions when you do have to go ahead and deal with Tucata and a Beast Tamer. So maybe that's what it's referring to. Again, guys, this is my field. This is what I cannot wait for. Every single one of these cards, I feel like I know so much more than what they might be leading on to, and it just gets me so excited. And if you have played any of the other games, then you would know. Jedi Knight, another standard card. This one's not one of the traditional 3 classes that you would have experienced in the KOTOR, but Jedi Knight was kind of the main character. Actually, the Star Wars The Old Republic, as we were just talking about, and the main character in that technically is the Jedi Knight. This is a 3-cost ground unit, aggression, heroism, 3/3 Force Jedi. When played, if you have the initiative, deal 2 damage to an enemy ground unit. This actually seems pretty good. In terms of, I get a Force Jedi unit and I get a 3/3, which isn't horrible. It's not great by any means, but if you do have the initiative, dealing 2 damage to enemy ground unit can actually be pretty impactful, especially if you're playing something like Quinlan, right? This could potentially deal, 3 damage to something. That can be pretty nice. Not that I think Quinlan's going to particularly want this card or anything like that, but there's just options for it. I don't think this is particularly strong, again, but maybe some options in the future. But I think the more impactful thing is that you get a Force Jedi unit for 3 cost. Terran's Attack, this one is one of my favorite ones from the spoilers because it just reminds me so much of that portion on Korriban when you are running through the trials to go ahead and basically become the second in command of that Sith temple, which is sweet in the KOTOR games. And these little creatures, oh my gosh, were these things tough to beat. 5/5 ground unit in command. While an opponent controls a Force unit, this unit gains ambush. Basically, these are the menaces of the Force in the game. They like specifically target and just absolutely annihilate Force users. So makes sense that when an opponent controls Force units, it gains ambush, and a 5 resource, a 5/5 ambusher is pretty good. Okay, that is a pretty good card. I'd be pretty okay playing that in my deck, but of course, it requires your opponents to play Force units, but that doesn't always have units on the board that are Force units, so you can trigger the ambush. But I think it looks sweet. So, and of course, it reminds me of Uthura and, oh my gosh, what's his name? Uthar in KOTOR. Those are the Sith teacher and his apprentice in the KOTOR games. And then lastly, probably the card I am most excited about, just because it's cool to see some of these characters outside of like the real core ones, like Malik, Revan, some of the classic characters. Just those are the two that are like on the face of the game, right? Like those are the characters that you're looking at. Those are like what you remember from KOTOR. Bastla's up there as well, and you see Bastla on the right hand side, but then the one on the left is actually, it looks like Mission. It looks like they're on Kashyyyk, and they're she's just healing, you know, force heal. When you get into the game, that's one of the force options, and my goodness, use the force if you do heal 6 damage from a unit. 1 cost event in Vigilance. I don't think this card's very good necessarily. I think you could maybe slot in a couple copies in a Revan deck, and if you're going really hard on the grit, you got the Revan lightsabers on Revan, you get a bunch of experience on him from attacking, and then you heal up a bunch of the damage, and suddenly you're back in form. Maybe there's something there. That's really the only situation where I see Cure Winds could be applied. But to me, the exciting part about this card is Mission and Bastila. Okay. And lastly, for the cards to finish off today, we've got Sith Legionaire. 2-cost ground unit in command villainy, 2/2 Sith Trooper. While you control another villainy unit, this unit gains +2/+0. Pretty sweet. Love seeing this old Sith armor. This is like, when I think of Sith Trooper, these guys are the guys that I think of. Man, do their armors look absolutely sweet. And I remember just walking around on Terrace from KOTOR 1, making sure to talk to every single possible Sith Trooper to see if there's any side quests back in the day. And my goodness, does it make me excited. Of course, this one looks like the one that's in front of the Korriban Temple, potentially, based on the rocks there and the little gate here. Kind of looks like what you have to enter in KOTOR for me. But really sweet card. I don't think this one's incredibly strong. 2 toughness is really hard to deal with, really, especially when it's a 2/2 and you have to control the villainy units. But card itself, pretty sweet, guys. That's all the Legend spoilers that they have posted, okay? And I could not be more excited. They dropped pretty much all of the Legends cards that they're going to be revealing in Legends of the Force, which is really interesting to me. And that means that the future is open for a full KOTOR set, a full Star Wars The Old Republic set, and pretty much whatever. The Legends tag, this little gold border down here, changes a lot of what the future of Star Wars Unlimited could be. One of the things that we were waiting for up until literally when Revan came out, that was like the only real confirmation that, at least for me, that I got based on what they decided to title Revan and what they decided to do with the Legends border there. That was the confirmation that, hey guys, we got a lot more to show you. And the Star Wars universe is about to expand, especially for those of you that haven't dove into the games. And once again, just to show you like how much of like, this is like, when I talk about Star Wars, and I talk about things that I love about Star Wars, I love the Clone Wars. It is absolutely my favorite series of all time in terms of TV series. It has some of the best episodes, but the true favorite part of Star Wars for me was always playing KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, and playing Star Wars The Old Republic. That era of Star Wars has always been my most exciting. And I just had to pull this off my shelf. For those of you that may have played through the game, this is, of course, Bastila destroying one of the Maker droids from the original Starforge, or one of the original star maps that you find on Dantooine. So between that, Revan's lightsaber, I mean, there's just so many things that I've got little sitting around here. I just had to show it to you all because this is exciting as heck. So I hope you all are excited as well. Before we end, guys, of course, I got stuck on the Legends content. We do have another card to talk about, and that's Grogu. Real quick, before I wrap up the video, 3-cost ground unit in Heroism. It's a 1/6 Force unit. It does have Hidden, which is pretty nice, and it's got this interesting action to heal up to 2 damage from a unit, including himself, which is actually really nice. And if you do, you could deal that much damage to a unit. I think this is one where we'll have to see if we can play a little bit more of a tanky, grindy sort of build, and if we can, perhaps Grogu is actually worthwhile. A 1/6 is kind of tough, and this action's really slow. So I don't really know if I'm convinced by Grogu, but maybe there's going to be some more synergies in the future. But as I was saying, hopefully hopefully, even though you're maybe not a huge Knights of the Republic fan like myself and many, many others, I hope that you all are excited just about the potential of all the new cards that you could see, right? That's one of the things that I think is most exciting about this, even more than for the people who are Knights of the Republic fans, okay? Like myself, obviously seeing all these cards is super exciting, period. But also what's even more exciting to some degree is that not only do we get to see a KOTOR set in the future, most likely, but we also have the opportunity to dive into so many other things outside of what we've already been seeing for 4 sets, right? Like everyone loves a good Luke, Darth Vader, all that stuff. And I hope to return to that in the future. But I love to see a little bit more sprinkling of all the different Legends content, seeing, maybe a whole set dedicated to the clones or whatever, not just Clone Wars, but actually the clone battalions and everything like that. And seeing more droids and all the different specifications of droids, like all that type of stuff, like more specific Star Wars content, and then even more so, more expansive Star Wars content. And that's something that I think they're kind of testing the waters out right here, and even more so, actually have permission to do so with some of these cards. Again, these are Legends characters. They are not canon. Darth Malik is not canon. Force Starfighter is not canon. Maybe Darth Revan's lightsaber is canon. I mean, technically no, because the only thing that's canon is that a person named Revan existed as a Sith in the past. For the most part, Liberator, Bastila, Starforge. You can literally see the Starforge in the background. Like all these different cards open up so much of the future for this game, and that is what should be exciting for everyone, not just the Knights of the Republic enjoyers. For those of you that are Boba Fett fans and want to see another Boba Fett, no, I said Boba Fett bands. For those of you that are Boba Fett fans and want to see another Boba Fett band in the future, let's wait until Legends Boba comes out, right? Because that's got to be pretty strong, right? Things like that, it's super exciting. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. This is a massive spoiler drop. Super excited. And I cannot wait to play this set. See you tomorrow.